Today's project is the evaluation and restoration of a 1965 Chrysler 300 L Distributor. I have already taken it apart, so we have to play some catch-up here on the documentary. Here you have the distributor body after it's been cleaned. As you can tell, this one is not a tack drive distributor. This is the roll pin. It's a 0.125 inch diameter roll pin. It runs through this collar and is used to retain the distributor shaft. The distributor shaft. This one, if you'll notice, it's got some scratches here on the camshaft for the breaker plate. This is the spacer. It goes between this collar and the shaft. This is the other spacer, which goes on the shaft and sits down in here. Reassembly should get this more clear. The distributor tag. And the breaker plate. These dual point breaker plates pivot on a bearing. This is the bearing. Quite often I'll find these plates and the bearings are seized. And the other distributor parts. The vacuum advance. Condition at this point unknown. This is the oil lubricator. Fits in here. These are just a press fit, so stick it in the vise, it should come out. Need to keep it out so you can get it clean. The distributor plate, you can see the bearing in there. There we go. But you can see it's tight and doesn't want to move. So we need to disassemble this, which is not too hard. You take off the ground wire here. You see this clip here and here. Well, they both rotate. See, I have rotated the clip and rotated the clip, which now allows me to separate the breaker plate. Your single point distributors don't have this. There is your ball bearing, which will allow that breaker plate to slide. You can see this one's all crudted up. They probably never get serviced. So we got to clean this up, get this spinning nice and easy. Otherwise, the vacuum advance is going to have a hard time moving the plate. So here's our plate and the bearing. You know you've got it clean when you can spin it like that. You know, it spends most of its life just rotating a little bit like this. So it's not unusual for these things to get junked up. I did one of these recently on a K, and this was so rusted and stuck. It took me hours to get it free, but this one's not so bad. And here's our bearing packed with grease. Now you don't have to go crazy packing this thing. It's not like a wheel bearing, but this will be enough grease to hold it for the rest of its life, I imagine. And here's our plate, reassembled, nice and free and easy. You can reassemble this with the wrong orientation, so pay attention to that. This one, and that would be the recess for the condenser. So you get them like that, that's close enough. That part's done. Getting ready now to paint the distributor body. I first clean it with mineral spirits and then give it a wipe with alcohol. I like to use white napkins because the white napkin will tell me if I've got all the debris off of it. You can see with my first wipe, I don't. Well, that's a good thing. This is a quick and easy step, and boy, I found that it just improves the quality of the paint job. Something tremendous. Couple more wipes. She'll be ready. See, now I'm not getting any dirt on the white napkin. Tells me I've got her clean for paint. And I take a quick blast with the air hose. This is my heat gun. You got to get these things warm. So I'll play the heat gun on here for a while. That'll get the distributor up to a reasonable temperature. Not hot, but warm. Paint sticks, paint dries, everything works better. And so now she's ready for paint. Here's the main shaft. You want to inspect it for any significant gouge or wear marks. This rides on a bushing here and here inside the distributor. Of course, check the distributor too. I don't generally disassemble these any further than this, because all I want to make sure is that the advance weights work nice and smooth and easy. I'll put a little grease in there just to be sure everything's happy. This one's in good shape, so we will continue from here. Vacuum advance. This is the vacuum advance unit. I have already disassembled it. The nozzle just unscrews on this one. There were some washers. They go in here. They act as preload on the vacuum advance. So if you take out 3 washers, put back in 3 washers. How do you check to see if a vacuum advance is good or not? Well, the easiest thing to do is just put your mouth on this and blow. If you cannot blow through it, that means the diaphragm is good. That's a good one. Thing about vacuum advances, they're not all the same. If yours is not good, there's a company called Philbin, P-H-I-L-B-I-N, that will rebuild them. Can you see up on the tag there? It's got 9 on it. I think that is how many inches of vacuum would be required to give you full advance on the diaphragm. Anyway, that's why I say vacuum advances are different. Not only that, because the arm will be different too. And here's the nose that I have cleaned up. I'm a big fan of using just a wire brush. That's all I used on this one. Okay. So I'll give these the wipe with the alcohol like I did the other ones. And I'm going to paint these with clear. I've taken the wire brush to the little screws and these distributor tab. Then I will paint them with clear. It's not like these happen instantaneously, but you know, it's got to be done. And like these screws, sometimes there'll be distortion marks where the blade has slipped. Well, this is the time to fix them. It's soft material, so you just put it in a vise, tap on it, and you can roll the distortion back into shape. Now, the distributor tag is going to require light care You can't wire brush this because you'll destroy it. So I'm going to use just a Scotch-Brite pad. So here we go. I've got something that will conform to the coil shape and the Scotch-Brite. You get the idea? So I'll show you the finished piece here in a second. So I finished it up with 4/0 steel wool. That's this kind of stuff. 0000 steel wool. It makes a nice finish. You can see the tag had already deteriorated in the corner, but the rest of it came out just fine. This will get an alcohol wipe and a clear coat. When I have lots of small parts that I've got to paint all with the same color, I like to stick them on this box. It's got various holes cut in it, and that makes a real easy way to hold the little things, and I can paint all these things at once. So there you have the pieces painted, including the vacuum advance. When I say painted, I'm using Eastwood Clear. I used to use Nylac, Nylac, which I think is a better product, but it's harder to get because I think you have to order it direct from Nylac. Anyway, progress. And we're back. The paint has dried, so it's time to get into reassembly of the L Distributor. So we'll prepare the shaft for reassembly. The one thing you don't want to forget is to put this piece back on the shaft, because that's going to sit in here, and if you forget it, you're going to have too much chucking up and down. So I've got a light coat of lubricant on the pieces as we reassemble. And everything fits together nice and tight with no sideways chucking. I also have installed the oil. This will get some drops of engine oil on a regular basis to keep the bearings going. So, the easy part's done. Now we'll have to get into reinstalling that collar that goes down here. So, I have the thrust washer installed and the collar, and then you have to align the collar so that the pin can go through. So I've spun it around until I've got the alignment right, and now I'll step away and insert the roll pin. Roll pin. Glad to have that much done. Home stretch. Now we're ready to install the breaker plate. This has to be oriented properly, so there's a little finesse to it. But work at it and she'll come in. So here's the breaker plate back in, retained by the clips. Well, the clip with the notch in the right spot. You could put the points and condenser back in it before you put the plate back in it. It might be a little easier. On these dual points distributors, this fortunately is an RB engine, so the distributor's on the front, and it's not so hard to get to. On those 331, 354, 392s with the distributor in the back, I'd like to shoot the guy who came up with that design, because they're just about impossible to work on. But you can set the points on this one fairly easily. But being a dual point, if you follow the instructions, at some point you have to block off one set of points to get the dwell angle, and then block off the other set of points. The engine doesn't want to run when you have one of these sets blocked off, because the timing effectively is so retarded. Of course, you can advance the distributor, but if you got a friend with a distributor machine, that's the way to get the dual point set up quick and easy. So that's what I'll be doing. So there you have an L Distributor, pretty well done. So here is the vacuum advance back on. It moves nice and easy. I don't have the spring in it, but that's what you want to be sure that you got nice action. Now this thing here is held on with the doggonest little pieces. So when I take them off, I take a piece of tape and I capture them inside there. Otherwise you just get lost all the time. Let me show you. I'm not sure you're going to be able to focus, but there's a little washer and then a little piece of wire that's shaped into a clip. And they have to go on that pin to retain it. And you don't want to drop them down the distributor, because then you'll get good at taking things apart. It was a fight, but I got that little thing in there. Probably the easiest way to do it is to take it in your fingers and close it up smaller than it should be. Then take your fingers and force it over. I've never had much luck with pliers or anything else. It seems to be that just your fingers and you can get it done. Life is not without its challenges, eh? And so now I will reinstall the distributor, vacuum advance spring, the washers, and the end. Give you a comparison here between an L distributor, which we know all too well now. This is a K distributor. It's got the tack drive on it. It's much heavier. Also has a grease cup instead of an oil cap. But this whole section here for the gear drive and the tack drive adds a lot of weight. Even the Ks that were automatic transmissions used this distributor. They just had a nice brass cup that would cover the tack drive, but it was all still in there. It was just probably less expensive to put a brass cup over there than to take the whole thing off. But you can tell there's quite a difference in these two distributors. Thanks for watching. Time for a beer.